Welcome to the LinkedIn Trust Series at Advertising Week, New York City 2017. I have with me David Kohl of TrustX. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You know, trust and safety and transparency, that's a huge piece of the dialogue here at Advertising Week. At least in 2017, it's definitely been a big topic, especially with everything that's going on in our nation. What is your take on trust?
So it absolutely has been permeating the conversation here at Advertising Week, and it's been permeating the news in the media industry all year, and one would argue really the past 2 years. The core in the trust problem is that you have on one end of the equation, you have the marketer. The marketer has, let's say, $100 of ad budget.
Right.
And on the other end, you have the publisher where that marketing budget is supposed to turn into media. And A&A, WFA, AdFin, several others have said repeatedly that particularly in programmatic advertising, that dollar is only funding about 30 or 40 cents of media.
Okay.
And what's happening in the middle is where this trust problem exists, right? You have money that's going from here to here that gets pulled out of the ecosystem because of fraud.
All right.
You have money that's coming from here to here that's getting pulled away from brand safe inventory. You have non-viewable ads. And then of course you have just the complexity of this supply chain, little pennies dropping out from players that are all honest companies and probably provide value, but there's mystery.
There's so many pieces.
Too many pieces. So the trust problem manifests itself, at least between the marketer and the publisher, or the principals in this relationship, as not knowing how a dollar ends up at only 30 or 40 cents.
Right. And so that's from the business-to-business standpoint. How is this affecting the actual customer on the end?
That's a great question. So it's absolutely a consumer problem as well. And I sort of think about the consumer in two lenses. There's a more sophisticated consumer, particularly the digital consumer, who understands that his or her data is a commodity, and it's the currency through which ads are targeted, which they are tracked, and that can get creepy. I'm sure you've experienced
yes,
it.
Yeah.
You go search for something and then it follows you around for weeks, whether or not you've actually bought the product. So in one category, you have the sophisticated consumer who's a little creeped out. And then you have the mainstream consumer who's just seeing that the experience in digital has degraded. It's degraded because of long load times, of pages that have tons of ads and tons of pixels firing.
Right.
And it's also degraded in that there's a degree of distrust in the content itself, with more and more proliferation of the stuff that may be fake news. PageFair, at the end of 2016, released a stat, and this is staggering. 11% of consumers globally are now blocking ads. That's 615 million consumers. And in 2015 to 2016, the last year they measured this, there was still a 30% growth rate in ad blocking. Those consumers are off the advertising grid. And it's manifesting itself in a degree of distrust. So the conversation is real.
Right.
It's a B2B conversation and it's a B2C conversation, and we need to be talking about it.
You know, I'm thinking back to last year. I believe it was last year. It might have been the year before. It was a big story when Apple released the newest version of iOS with ad blocking capabilities inside of Safari, which is crazy. And you know, something else that rung a bell is when you mentioned fake news, right? So we're seeing that. How do you think that do you think brands need to be a little more mindful about where their content's appearing and what mediums it's appearing in?
I think the answer is yes. So there is some empirical research, I should say there's a lot of empirical research, but there's some very relevant empirical research that came out, we were talking about this time last year, from ComScore. The research was called the Halo Effect. And it demonstrated a very clear top-of-funnel lift in brand metrics when a consumer engages with trusted premium content. I think that within the digital supply chain, there's been this race to cheaper and cheaper per unit cost. It's all about, you can get me this CPM, well, next year I want you to get me less than that CPM.
Sure.
But as you move down the funnel in cost, there's a natural move from more premium environments, which rightfully so because of the brand lift,
Sure.
can command a higher CPM, to the less trustworthy, less safe, possibly more fake, less brand safe media. And also non-viewable media, because you don't have to charge a lot if it's never seen.
Right.
So I do think brands have to be part of taking responsibility for getting out of this race to the bottom and recognizing that premium, trusted content environments are in fact more valuable for them at certainly at top of funnel, where they're establishing brand and creating affinity, and I'd argue right down through the funnel into capturing the consumer.
You know, and I mean, that's, if you look at this in a simple way, I'm just sort of restating what you just said, is I'm going in there trying to get something as cheap as I can, and my brand may appear on some website that's got some fake news article or some questionable article where people were led there by some clickbait or something like that. So if I see something on Facebook that is, too good to be true, I click on it, and from a consumer standpoint, if I click on this and I go to this website and I realize that this is a bunch of trash that somebody is just building to either propagate some fake news or to make money because there's ads appearing on that, I'm going to have a negative view of that website, and any brand that happens to have an ad that appears on that page, whether they meant for it to be there or not, is that negative feeling is going to be transferred over to them.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you sort of think about, you have inexpensive media, and you might be thinking as a brand or the agency who's buying on behalf of the brand, oh, I got that cheap, but there's not only a low cost to the media that puts you in an environment you may not want to be with, but as you said, the consumer sentiment about the brand actually moves from positive in a premium environment to negative. So you have negative or expense rather than just a low price. So I think you're right.
Yeah. So last year we sat down at the podcast booth at Advertising Week,
You're right.
and you had the big announcement of TrustX starting up. Or forming, right? So how is TrustX actually helping the industry to rebuild this trust?
So it is our anniversary. We announced on September 26, 2016, so went into beta in May.
Okay.
So TrustX is a premium cooperative private marketplace for the high quality advertisers and their agencies that are the principals on the buy side,
Right.
and premium content publishers on the sell side.
Right.
We're 100% curated, and the purpose of the marketplace by bringing these companies together is to create an environment that enables programmatic trading, but in a totally safe, totally transparent, trusted environment. We're a catalyst for rebuilding trust in the supply chain. So, one, we're nonprofit. We didn't take in money, we're not some ad tech company. We actually are a purpose-built company. We are a subsidiary of a trade association called Digital Content Next, which represents the supply side. And our whole mission is, and we say these words, to build a sustainable future for trusted advertising. So what we do is we bring buyers and sellers together in an environment where all the things we just talked about, we just do a 180. So we start with the premise that brand safety is a problem. Well, don't worry, every seller is curated and meets a high standard, and you know exactly who they are, and you know every URL that you're advertising on.
Right.
You don't like paying for advertising that was never seen? Well, we're 100% viewable, and we guarantee that if we find anything that's fraudulent, you won't get billed for it. So, and there's a list, but our point is we're going the opposite. We're saying that programmatic has a powerful promise. There's a gap between promise and reality, and our mission is to show the marketplace what it would actually be like if programmatic met its promise.
Great.
So we've been in business doing this. We're still in our beta period. We're bringing in advertisers, bringing in agencies. We have 35 publishers that have signed on, about half of which are now online. And the story will be told over the next few months if we actually can execute on our plan and, as I said, start building that sustainable future.
Well, great.
It's very exciting.
David, thank you so much for joining me here.
Thanks a lot for having me.
We'll be back with more of the LinkedIn Trust series at Advertising Week New York.